didn't run because I saw something. I ran because something called my name from a place I had never told anyone about. It happened 2 summers ago, right after I quit a job that had completely drained me. I needed distance from everything: people, noise, expectations. So I booked a last-minute stay at a remote lakeside cabin deep in northern Minnesota. The listing described it as perfect for solitude. At the time, that sounded peaceful. Now I understand why nobody else wanted it. The cabin sat at the end of a dirt road that barely qualified as a road. Dense pine forest surrounded it on all sides except the lake, which stretched out like black glass behind the property. No neighbors, no cell service, just one small wooden dock and a single rowboat tied loosely to it. Inside was simple. One room, old furniture, a kitchenette that looked unused for years. The owner had left a handwritten note welcoming me and reminding me to lock both bolts at night because wildlife sometimes tested doors. That wording stuck with me longer than it should have. The first evening felt calming. I cooked instant noodles, watched the sunset bleed into the water, and listened to insects buzzing in waves. By nightfall, the silence became heavy, the kind where every tiny sound feels amplified. Around midnight, I realized my phone wasn't charging. Every outlet was dead. The battery dropped to 5%, then 4%. I remember laughing nervously, thinking how disconnected I truly was. I fell asleep anyway. Something woke me hours later. Not a loud noise, the absence of sound. The insects had stopped. Then I heard footsteps on the wooden dock. Slow, measured, boards creaking one at a time. My eyes stayed shut at first. I told myself it was an animal, maybe a deer, but the steps reached the end of the dock and stopped. Whoever or whatever was out there wasn't moving randomly. It was waiting. My stomach tightened. I sat up slightly, barely breathing. A faint beam of light slid across the cabin wall. Someone was shining a flashlight through the window. My hand started shaking before my brain caught up. I watched the light move slowly across the ceiling, pausing like the person outside was studying the room layout. Then the handle turned. Once, softly. The deadbolt held. Silence followed, thick enough to feel physical. I counted my breaths, trying not to panic. Then 3 hard knocks slammed against the door. The sound exploded through the tiny cabin. I flinched so hard I nearly fell out of bed. Another knock, and then a voice. Calm, close, certain. I know you're awake. Every muscle locked. I didn't recognize the voice, but it spoke casually, like we already knew each other. I didn't respond. Footsteps moved along the wall toward the window near my bed. The flashlight beam disappeared, replaced by darkness pressing against the curtain. I squeezed my eyes shut. You shouldn't hide in places like this, the voice whispered. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a metal flashlight, and crouched beside the door, convinced it was about to break open. But instead, silence, complete silence. Eventually, I heard footsteps retreating toward the dock. A moment later, water splashed softly. An engine coughed to life, small, like an outboard motor, and faded across the lake. I stayed awake until sunrise. When daylight finally came, I stepped outside. Boot prints circled the cabin repeatedly, deep impressions like someone had paced there for a long time. They led straight to the dock. The rowboat was gone. I packed immediately and drove back to town without stopping. At the rental office, I casually asked if anyone else had access to the property. The clerk frowned. She told me the rowboat had been missing for months. No one had reported using it. I left without explaining anything. For weeks, I convinced myself it was coincidence, maybe a trespasser, maybe local playing a prank. But a month later, I received an envelope at my apartment. No return address. Inside was a photograph. It showed the cabin from the tree line at night, my cabin, with the lights on inside. And written on the back in neat handwriting were 4 words. Next time, don't lock it. I moved shortly after that. I changed jobs, changed cities, changed routines. But sometimes, late at night, I still think about that voice. Calm, patient, certain, standing just outside the door. Because whoever found me once never sounded like they were in a hurry.